Everyone tells you the same thing when you start a business or move into leadership. You need to let go of control.
Right? As if that's easy. I mean, sure, I'd love to delegate more if anyone could actually do it right.
I know, but what if I told you that being a control freak might actually make you a better leader?
So you're saying all those sleepless nights obsessing over details are leadership training?
Kind of. Today we're unpacking the Delegation Paradox, why the very thing that makes Type A women struggle with delegation might also make them exceptional at it. Here's the problem with the advice to just delegate more. It assumes that delegation is about letting go, but that's not what real delegation actually is.
Yeah, because when you let go, you usually end up doing it all later.
I totally agree. That cycle of I'll just fix it myself isn't failure, it's a system of failure. A 2019 Harvard Business Review study found that while most leaders know delegation is important, only 1 in 4 actually do it effectively. The reason? Poor delegation systems, not poor people.
So the issue isn't control, it's clarity.
Yep. Type A women tend to be system-oriented by nature. We think in processes, goals, checklists. That's not a flaw, that's leadership infrastructure.
So let's break this down with some logic. Why are control freaks often such good leaders once they learn to delegate?
It comes down to how our brains handle control and decision making. There's something called cognitive control theory, which basically says your brain uses energy every time it makes a decision. The more decisions you make, the faster that energy drains, something psychologists call decision fatigue.
That's the same research Roy Baumeister did in the late 90s, right?
Yes, and when you're the person making every decision, from hiring to font colors, your brain gets overloaded. But here's the twist. Control freaks are actually better equipped to delegate because they already have high standards and strong frameworks. They just need to learn to transfer those frameworks instead of trying to transfer their perfectionism.
So the problem isn't control, it's misdirected control.
Right. When control freaks delegate strategically, not reactively, they actually outperform their more chill peers. Let's talk about how this plays out with our 3 Type A archetypes. First, the hustler.
Ah, the hustler. She's up before sunrise, outworking everyone, and probably doing her team's job too.
The hustler believes that delegation slows her down. She'd rather do it herself than risk someone else taking twice as long. But research from Harvard shows that leaders who delegate properly gain back up to 20% of their time, and their teams perform better too.
Because that time goes towards strategy, not busy work.
Exactly. For hustlers, the 90-day planner becomes essential. When you start your quarter by writing down your core outcomes, you're forced to identify what only you can do. Everything else, that's fair game to delegate.
And that's not letting go of control. That's using control intentionally. Now the Overplanner. She's got color-coded Trellos for her asanas, and she's still revising her SOPs.
The Overplanner's delegation problem isn't trust. It's actually timing. She gets so focused on perfecting her system that she never hands it off.
Right. She's convinced no one else can follow her 42-step process correctly, so she just keeps rewriting it.
But research found that perfectionism creates pseudo-productivity. You feel productive because you're planning, but your outcomes don't improve. The fix? Use the weekly reflection section of the 90-day planner. It's actually designed to help you review what actually worked, not what looked perfect on paper.
Progress over perfection is one of my favorite mottos.
Exactly. You can't delegate a system that doesn't exist, but you also can't perfect one that never launches. And not to avoid, but finally, the avoider.
She's my favorite because she's sneaky about it. The avoider will tell herself she's delegating by letting her team handle it, but she never gives real direction.
Yep, avoiders often avoid conflict, not just control. They don't want to correct or clarify because it feels uncomfortable. But that can lead to confusion, rework, and resentment.
And what happens then? They step in at the last minute and do it all themselves.
Yep, delegation fails without boundaries. For avoiders, the fix starts on the quarterly reset page of the 90-day planner, the section where you identify your not my job list. If you never define what's not yours, you'll actually just keep picking it back up.
So let's break down how the Type A 90-day planner actually supports this new way of delegating.
Right. There are 4 steps, and this method works whether you're leading a team or just trying to survive your own to-do list. First, define your core outcomes, which are your quarterly goals. What results are you personally responsible for delivering? Not every task, just the outcomes. List your workload. Write down everything you do in a week. Admin, marketing, errands, all of it. Tag each task with an E, A, D, or K. E, eliminate if it doesn't move the needle. A, automate. Can a system do it? D, delegate. Someone else can handle it with guidance. And finally, K, keep. The work that truly requires you to do it. Then assign ownership. In your planner, note who's responsible and when you'll follow up.
That last part is huge. Delegation isn't a set it and forget it thing.
One report found that managers who regularly check in on delegated work without micromanaging improve team performance by up to 20%.
So not hovering, but not disappearing either.
Right. You stay in control of the system, not the execution.
Okay, but let's talk about the emotional side. Because for a lot of Type A women, delegation feels personal.
Absolutely. For many of us, perfectionism isn't just about quality, it's about identity. If the project goes wrong, it feels like we failed. That's why control freaks struggle to hand things off.
But the truth is, delegation isn't about giving up control. It's about multiplying it.
You're creating more people who can uphold your standards. That's real leadership. Brené Brown talks about this in the book Daring Greatly. Trust and vulnerability are inseparable. Delegation requires trusting others and trusting yourself to handle imperfection.
Because let's be honest, no one is going to do it exactly like you. But sometimes done well enough is better than perfect and never finished.
Let's make this practical. When I first started leading teams, I delegated the wrong things, small projects that didn't matter or random tasks with no system. Then I'd get frustrated people who didn't meet my expectations.
Same. I used to think delegation was about lightening my load, but it's really about clarifying my priorities.
Now I can use the 90-day planner to decide what only I can do. Strategic direction, hiring decisions, financial calls. Then I can delegate the execution layer. Like, I'll set the content calendar, but someone else schedules it. I control the system, not the details.
I do this at home too. I delegate dinner planning to my kids, but I control the framework, what nights we cook, what's on the list, and how they choose meals.
And that's the paradox. Control freaks make better leaders because we already know how to build systems. We just have to trust people to operate them.
Before we wrap up, here's a quick delegation checklist for our Type A women watching. Are your outcomes defined clearly? Do you know what not to do this quarter? Have you documented your processes once instead of rewriting it endlessly? And are you following up without micromanaging? Are you tracking delegated outcomes in your 90-day planner? If you can answer yes to 3 or more of these, congratulations. You're mastering the delegation paradox.
And if not, remember, delegation is not something you can perfect once. It's something you need to practice every quarter.
So the next time someone tells you to just let go, remind them, you're not a control freak. You're a systems thinker in progress.
Exactly. You don't have to release control. You just have to redirect it.
Because great leaders don't lose control when they delegate, they multiply it.